go, and onwards and upwards to game 2 here in the Invitational Qualifier. Ben Heath game up against Lee Parker. What will we've been seeing from their sideboards?
We might be seeing a little bit of graveyard removal from Lee. We might see something like Deathrite Shaman come in, just to gain a little bit of life and stop Ben's messengers doing their thing. We might see a little bit more in the way of point removal coming in. Ben very well could have discard considering he's the aggro deck, but I don't think there'll be a massive amount of stuff brought in, to tell you the truth. Ben starting off on Rakdos Cackler, and Lee's got his ideal Farseek really on turn 2. That's really what he wants to be able to accelerate into cards like Huntmaster of the Fells and Olivia, which are going to, he hopes, take over the game.
They're just waiting for him to pull a land out there?
Yeah, just having a bit of a decision there. I suppose he just goes for Overgrown Tomb there. I mean, I guess with Gatecrash coming out, he goes for Stomping Ground when that happens. Be interesting to see how Standard's mana bases change when Gatecrash comes in.
It'll certainly make a few decks a bit more viable that are struggling a little bit right now with the mana base.
Yeah, I mean, that's Appetite for Brains from Ben, which I'm guessing is a sideboard card from him. He's only got
Lee going, what does that do?
He's got a couple of options here. He can either take Sever the Bloodline, or he can take Lee's Huntmaster of the Fells there, which is what that check card more than likely is. It's a bit of a tough choice, really, because while Huntmaster's a bit of a pain as far as a creature goes, it is just a guy, whereas Sever the Bloodline is 2 spells and can also deal with his messengers and his Falconwrath Aristocrats really quite nicely. So, just seeing what Ben decides to take here. He's in the tank a little bit about it. Well, that's not going to help his decision too much, because that's all he can legally take, but never mind. The rest of Lee's hand is Searing Spear and Bonfire of the Damned, so he's certainly not got a lot in the way of pressure in his hand. And yeah, Ben decides to take away Lee's main route to card advantage in this game, and that's Sever the Bloodline. He doesn't really mind too much about the other spells, because obviously his Aristocrats are pretty much immune from removal, and if Lee's removing his Geralt's Messengers with 2 spells, he's not going to be that bothered about it either. Ben's got a Cavanon Devil there for Rakdos Cackler. Conveniently, Devil is also what Hellrider is, so he's not hurting himself too much. Remember the old zombie deck, whenever it had to lay a Cavanon Devil to make Rakdos Cackler, it always felt terrible.
You really should be dropping that 3rd land though about now, Ben.
Yeah, he's got it in hand. You can see it there. There's another Cavern in his hand. Just having a little bit of a think about how to take on the Huntmaster. And also he's got to be a little bit worried about the fact that Lee can Bonfire for 2 next turn if he draws a land. And Ben does know he has to draw a land in order to Bonfire for 2, but if he does Bonfire for 2, it's going to be pretty nasty for...
And that's why Lee didn't block?
Yeah, pretty much. I think he's just playing to his... he's playing to the fact that if I draw a land, I end up with all your creatures in the bin and a Huntmaster in play, which is pretty much ideal. Looks like he's missed it, because I'm pretty sure he'd just slam it and do it if he had the if he'd drawn the land. So a bit unfortunate for Lee there, especially after Farseeking. You'd really hope to hit your 5th land in a deck like Jund, but I think he's just going to turn his Huntmaster and his Wolf sideways and say go, flipping the Huntmaster. So Diagraph Gull bites it, and now we get to see what Ben's 4th turn gives us. I mean, with Lee holding both Searing Spear and Bonfire, it can't be too devastating what's going to happen, but Fist of Heath on the table there. We've got Falconwrath Aristocrat coming in, and I think Lee's just going to He's going to burn the Falconwrath Aristocrat, forcing Ben to sacrifice his Rakdos Cackler, and Lee takes 6, going to 10. Now the fifth land doesn't help as much because Ben can just regenerate or make indestructible his Falconwrath, so Lee getting choked on that land really didn't help him. In for 6 with his guys, trying to keep the pressure on a bit. And Vampire Nighthawk and Deathrite Shaman, so he gets to reflip his Huntmaster, getting a wolf and gaining 2 more life.
Things looking pretty good for Lee at this point.
Yeah, if that Huntmaster flips back over, it's definitely good for Lee. But of course, as we saw in the first game, this Rakdos aggro deck can just spring a surprise out of anywhere. If Ben has a Hell Rider here, he can really put pressure on Lee's life total again. But again, being on 8, he's got to be very careful about any sort of potential swing back. There we go, it flips, Lee goes back up to 12. And a wolf comes into play. Both players slowing down the pace a little bit now, because essentially each matchup that they play in the top 8 now has what would be £150 ante on it, and going a little bit higher as you get into the semis and the final. 3rd Cavern of Souls from Ben. 5 mana, really? Oh, Zealous Conscripts. He takes Vampire Nighthawk, so...
Which was the only blocker for the Aristocrat.
Yep. And of course that Vampire's also going to gain him 2 life as well from this swing, which is going to put him out of range of any attack that Lee can muster. And the other thing that's going to happen here as well is that the Falconwrath is going to eat that Vampire Nighthawk, so... Could have taken the Huntmaster maybe just to get an extra counter, but I don't think that's really the way forward when there's a Nighthawk across the table. So that's a total of 11 coming at Lee. It's going to drop him to 1 and put Ben back up to 10. And Ben is going to, he's going to chow down on the Vampire Nighthawk. So Lee looking for a pretty good top deck at this point. Miracling Bonfire would be pretty good, but that's about as far as goes, and it probably still wouldn't save him Miracling Bonfire because of Aristocrat's indestructibility. Got Kessig Wolf Run. Again, without that conscript, it probably would have been good enough.
Lee seems to be 1 or 2 points short of damage in several different ways at the moment, both with his Bonfire and the Wolf Run.
Yeah. And the fact that he can't block that Aristocrat next turn, he knows that he's pretty much down. I see a Searing Spear in his hand, I think. Now, if that was a Searing Spear, he'd win the game right here. He'd just attack and fire the Searing Spear off. Might be a Bonfire.
Well, we know he's got a Bonfire.
Yeah, that's true. It will be a Bonfire, won't it?
This is just one of those games where people sit around for 3 minutes knowing they've lost.
Yeah, there is that side to things. It's just like, doesn't matter what you do, the short and simple answer to it here is, can you deal with that Falconwrath Aristocrat this turn? You have to do one of 2 things. The first is kill your opponent, the second is deal with Falconwrath Aristocrat if you can't kill your opponent. If you cannot accomplish either of these tasks, you lose the game. Might be a little bit of shortcut thinking, but I think that's pretty accurate in this situation, to tell you the truth. So, I mean, I suppose he could just Bonfire for 2 and hope Ben's terrible, but I don't think that that's going to happen, to tell you the truth.
Yeah, there is no way of playing this.
Ben just turns over Searing Spear, just saying, I've got you dead no matter what you do next turn.
He was getting pretty tired because he knew Lee couldn't do anything there.
Yeah.
So that's a quick 2-0 for Ben, and he moves forward to the semi-finals.